Welcome to Mind Body Monday, and thank you all for joining me. The topic of today's video is how to be energized and not fatigued by the food you eat. In this video, you're going to learn about the silent thief that could be the cause of chronic exhaustion, fatigue, low mood, and most importantly, what you can do about it. You're going to learn my 3 simple fixes to nurture your microbiome, which will boost your energy levels. And then I'm going to share with you my top 3 tips to eat for energy so you can end exhaustion and feel great. It just so happened, as it generally does, that as I was preparing for today's Mind Body Monday, a big chunk of my day today was in what I'm going to call a low energy day. The good news is that I was able to course correct and get my energy back up again to show up here today using some of the strategies that I'm going to share with you today. It's important to know it's healthy and okay to have dips in your energy level through your day, through your week, through the month perhaps, but it should not be the theme song of your day, your week, or your life. You want to be, in general, upbeat, happy, positive, energetic. And if you're not, then there is an invitation to look at what that is about. If you just look at a well-fed baby who's cleaned, diapered, well-fed, well-slept, they're just a bubble of energy and boisterous and loud and happy and self-regulating. And this is really how we should be in essence. If we are well-fed, warm, well-slept, we should have this innate vitality, innate positive energy. And if it's not here, if it's not part of our life, then there is an exploration that needs to be done to look at what can you do to boost your energy, your mood and energy. And I'm going to share with you 3 different strategies, 3 strategies regarding the gut microbiome, and 3 interesting and different fresh angles at energy, eating for energy. So most people know, let me start this way. So often in my practice, I get my patients saying things like, no matter what I eat, I just feel blah afterwards. Just a drop in energy, mood, feeling bloated, feeling fatigued, just feeling uncomfortable. And a lot of what people eat leads them feeling wiped out afterwards. Now, even if they're eating wholesome, healthy meals, there's still a lot of things that can go wrong. Granted, if a person is eating lousy food, I say to my kids all the time, if a Formula One racing car takes Formula One fuel, it does not take lawnmower fuel because it's just not going to perform. So too, if you want Formula One energy, in body and mind, you need to give yourself high quality food and create an environment. And I'm going to share with you some of those strategies to get you the energy that you need. So if you're living off caffeine, sugary foods, chocolate, etc. on a regular basis to boost your energy, that is another telltale sign that something is wrong. If you have a coffee in the morning, that's great. There's not necessarily a problem with that, or even some dark chocolate. But as a theme through your day to keep your energy up, that already tells me something that an imbalance needs to be addressed. So I don't want to oversimplify things. One of my superpowers is to take the complex and make it really simple and actionable. But at the risk of oversimplifying things, a big piece I've seen in my clinic at any rate is to explaining part of the mystery of exhaustion and fatigue is the gut and is an imbalanced microbiome. Granted, there are many, many reasons why a person can be fatigued, exhausted, lack motivation, etc. We all know what they are: poor sleep, stress, be it emotional stress, financial stress, relationship stress, poor lifestyle choices, hormonal imbalance, metabolic issues, illness, a whole slew of different factors. And that's why it's not so easy to untangle the ball of string that's all tangled up when people come in complaining of chronic challenges, whatever they may be. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes listening. It takes understanding to figure out what are the priorities and what's really going on. So what struck me about preparing in today's Mind Body Monday was a fascinating piece of research in PubMed that highlighted a different microbiome balance. That means different gut bacteria were found in people who were upbeat, happy, full of energy, positive, energetic people. They had a theme of a different kind of microbiome, where people who are exhausted, depressed, lethargic, and low energy have a different kind of bacterial balance in their gut. And in previous Mind Body Mondays, I shared some amazing research about transplanting different microbiomes in different people and watching the results, and it was very telling. But not for now. What I do want to just highlight is how your gut bacteria will absolutely affect your mood and your energy. In fact, recently I gave a Mind Body Monday entitled The Gut Everything Connection, where I highlighted how our microbiome affects absolutely everything. And I mentioned 6 major systems in the body, be it your brain health, hormonal health, even bone health, immune system health, etc. All dictated by a healthy microbiome. I also mentioned in that Mind Body Monday, the Gut Everything Connection, how our mood is so affected by that, as a result of how our gut is balanced, because over 95% of serotonin and over 50% of dopamine, these are very, very important brain neurotransmitters. That percentage is actually made in the gut and not in the brain. So serotonin is so important for mood stabilization, sleep. It plays a very important role in our happiness, our energy levels, and dopamine also affects our experience of pleasure, of satisfaction, of motivation. These key neurotransmitters are made in the gut. So it's so obvious how you feel in your energy, in your body, and in your mind. Your mood is going to be affected by your gut. In fact, today, when I had this sort of low funk, I must have got some sort of gut bug over the last 24 hours, but I lay low. I rested, I hydrated, and I did 2 or 3 of the strategies that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And here I am to tell the tale. So the first thing I always tell my patients is to keep a food journal. This could be a low-tech or a high-tech thing. You can either just take a pen and paper and just keep your piece of paper on a magnet on the fridge, and every time you eat something, you just write it down, or in your pocketbook, or in your phone. And they're fantastic apps that help you track your mood and how you feel after what you've eaten. And it's so important to raise the level of consciousness. Not only that, but to have a food diary, where I have my patients do this for 7 days, sometimes even 2 weeks, where they literally write down everything they eat and drink for a week or 2 weeks. And then there's in part of the sheet I give them to complete is your symptoms, your energy levels, your mood, your sleep. And people begin to see a pattern between what they eat and how that impacts them. And once you see these patterns, you have the awareness to make better food choices. There's an app that I actually have subscribed to. I use it for myself, and I guide my patients through it as well. It's called MyFitnessPal. I don't get any kickbacks for it, but it's a fantastic app. The premium paid version has got some amazing AI technology built into it, where you can get your macros, meaning your proteins, fats, and carbs, different workouts that you need, but it helps you to track your food. And then you can also, alongside, write down how you feel as a result of what you eat. In my mindfulness programs, I take my participants through a mindfulness meditation exercise. And one of the exercises is to imagine eating your favorite go-to every single day for 2 weeks. And how would that make you feel? Will that give you good, lasting energy, upbeat mood, or will you get totally bored and fed up from it in 2 or 3 days? Because if you're really eating good quality, whole, nourishing, plant-based foods in general, you can eat the same food for an extended period of time and get better and better and better. So this first point I'm sharing here is consciousness. Raise your level of consciousness. And if you're not sure if you should eat a food, just take a deep breath in, breathing out, look at the food or imagine the food and think, how will this make me feel if I eat this every day for the next few days, few weeks? And if it's going to deplete you and leave you fatigued, then it's probably not a good idea to even eat it now. So that's sort of an upgrade in your awareness as an experiment to do. But I want to share with you my top 3 suggestions to look at how to nurture your microbiome in order to boost your energy levels. There are many, many strategies. I'm going to share with you my top 3 for today. And the first one has to be eating fermented foods at least twice a day, adding cultured vegetable, be it sauerkraut or cultured vegetables, pickled cucumbers. Right now, I've got a batch of sauerkraut going with fresh ginger. I've also got fresh kohlrabi and carrots that are being fermented. And part of my strategy today to get myself back up with my energy and focus is I ate very, very lightly today, but I had some soup and a little bit of well-cooked rice and lentils, but I'll also add it in to each of those meals twice today is some fermented foods. Now, if you don't know how to make them or you don't have the time or the inclination, that's fine. Because the good news is there's another easy option for you. And that is just to buy a good quality probiotic and simply take a capsule twice a day. I recommend to my patients do this half an hour before eating. That way the absorption is best and it populates your gut with friendly bacteria in time for your meal. So the first suggestion to boost your energy levels is to include a good quality probiotic, or my best is a cultured vegetable at least twice a day. As far as I'm concerned, this is a lifestyle suggestion for the rest of your life. And obviously, in times when you can't, or you're traveling, or you're away, or whatever, fall back on just taking some capsules with you and bringing that along the way. There's so much research supporting the benefits of long-term probiotic use. So that's microbiome energy tip number 1. The second tip, and this is something I also did today. We all know that chewing is so important, but like everything, it requires time, energy, effort, and some mindfulness. Chewing actually is a mechanical way to break down the foods we eat. So by chewing your food thoroughly, you're actually breaking your food down and making it so much easier for the enzymes inside the gut to deal with the food. Also, the first stage of digestion is in the mouth, specifically for carbohydrates. So when you chew your food, you're actually secreting the salivary amylase and and various enzymes in the mouth that help to digest your food. And that way, it's the first step so that when it goes down the digestive tube, it's able then to get further broken down by other enzymes. And if you skip the chewing part, you actually disrupt the delicate balance in the digestive process. So that's sort of a little bit of why chewing is so, so important. And there are many strategies to help you to do that. Just simply, if food's on your fork or your spoon, put it in your mouth and put your fork and spoon down. But when you have something waiting in the wings for you to, it's almost a subconscious message to say, hurry up, I want to get that down the hatch so I can get the next thing in. So if you just eat mindfully, that's a good way to focus on the chewing. But this is what I want to come to, is adding a good quality digestive enzyme before each of your main meals. So for example, today I only ate twice because I wasn't feeling great and keep my energy good, but not overtaxing my digestive system. So at each meal, I took two digestive enzymes just before the meal. That way, and then focus on chewing, of course. That way I was able to extract the nutrients from the food so much easier. I will support the microbiome and also nurture back my energy as well. So that is the second tip for today. We are all busy leading less than ideal lives. Let's just say that. So having including a good quality enzyme with each meal will just help take off the edge of the digestive loading on the body as a result of not chewing well, as a result of not eating the best quality foods necessarily. It will also help your body be at its best. It's almost as if you're hiking up a hill with a backpack on that's pretty heavy and someone behind you is just giving you a gentle lift up the hill. That way, the backpack is the same weight, but you're getting an extra boost. And that's really what the digestive enzymes will do for you. Whether you have a digestive problem or not, I encourage all my patients to consider adding a digestive enzyme to your meal. Now, there's a whole world of digestive enzymes. I'm not getting into that now. There are many different kinds for different kinds of conditions, but a general digestive enzyme is a good place to start. The third strategy to help the microbiome and help your energy at the same time is what I call plug the leaks. What I mean by that is, in my recent video on leaky gut syndrome, I took a deep dive in terms of what is leaky gut syndrome and what you can do about it. In essence, there's been some damage to the intestinal membrane in the gut. And what happens is there's an increase in what's called intestinal permeability. That is when undigested food particles, bacteria, toxins, etc., that should have been broken down in your gut leak into your bloodstream and cause an immune response. This is called leaky gut syndrome. And you can check out my previous video on how to diagnose yourself or get a diagnosis and how to treat it. But when I'm talking about here about plug the leaks, if you do have the symptoms of leaky gut, which could well be bloating and gas and IBS symptoms, SIBO symptoms, and possibly any autoimmune condition as well, for the reasons I explained there, because foreign particles are actually going into your blood supply, and they should not be going there unchecked by your immune system. And if they are, your immune system will attack them, and very often you'll pay for it, meaning in low energy, in fatigue, in possibly an autoimmune condition, or many, many other conditions as well. So that is the third strategy for nurturing your microbiome and getting your energy back. That is plugging up the leaks in the gut. And there are various herbs and food sources and things to do that. You can see that previous video on how to do that best. So I want to just change tracks now, because the first three strategies were really more gut-based, microbiome-based as they impact energy levels. Now I want to share with you another three strategies, what I'm going to call general eating principles, but with a little bit of a twist. And some of you may be unfamiliar with these, and hence from the archive of many, many strategies I use to help my patients, I've just chosen my top three for today. And the first one is especially important for anyone who has an insulin resistance or a high sugar glucose levels in the blood, or type 2 diabetes or borderline, because this is a very, very important strategy that can do wonders to balance your glucose levels. But even if your glucose levels are normal, knowing about this strategy will help to keep things stable, your glucose level stable. That means you're not going to have a post-meal spike. Or in other words, what this means is after a person's eaten the wrong kinds of food or the wrong combinations of food, or for many other reasons, there's a spike in insulin in the beginning, and then there's a drop, and that drop leads to the funk, the exhaustion, the fatigue after eating. So this first strategy will help stop that. Now, this is based on some fascinating research also done by Dr. Jason Fung, who is absolutely the go-to. He's a nephrologist, kidney specialist, but has written a tremendous amount on insulin, type 2 diabetes, and he's written a book called the Insulin Code, I believe it is. Let me just check my notes here. Yeah, the Diabetes Code, Prevent and Reverse Type 2 Diabetes Naturally. He's really an authority in his field. And he highlights a concept called front-loading proteins and fats in your meal and leave carbs for last. In English, what this means is, it means when you sit down to your meal, eat protein first, eat fats second, and eat carbs third. In other words, research shows that if you eat the same food, the same nutrients, the same calories, but at different stages, different times, just 15 minutes apart, let's say in the same meal, it will have significant impacts on the energy in your body, significant impact in the insulin levels in your blood, glucose levels, and on your energy levels. So what this means is have your chicken, your meat, your fish, your eggs first with a vegetable. And then if there's going to be a carb like rice or quinoa or buckwheat or whatever it happens to be, have that last. By having the protein, the fat, and the vegetables first, you are going to be reducing your insulin levels by about 40%. That's significant. In other words, it's the same food, just a different timing. And for me, this is very relevant, not only on a daily basis, but specifically, let's say on Shabbos at Kiddush, where most shuls will serve whatever they serve, the Yerushalmi kugel and herring or whatever. But if a person has a choice, yes, you have to have the required amount of mazonos, etc. But once you've had that minimum requirement, don't go over the top there. Press pause, have your protein, whatever it'll be for you there. And then if you wanted to have more carbs later on, you can do that. This is such an important piece of research where you can reduce the levels of insulin and glucose by as much as 40% by just changing the order of your meals. Through this, you'll have better energy and better glucose regulation. The second strategy that's less microbiome based, but more smart strategies to boost your energy around food, so you don't have the post-meal slump, or you just have more consistent glucose levels through the day. That means your brain will be able to think clearly. You won't have brain fog, or you'll be able to clear that up. Is to have what I call smart snacks. Smart snacks is a term that describes a balanced snack. So, for example, if you're going to have an apple with some nuts, because the apple is high in fructose, gets processed pretty quickly, relatively quickly by your body, and then will spike your glucose levels and then drop it down as well afterwards, leaving a fatigue in the wake possibly. But if you have an apple or half an apple with a handful of nuts, be it almonds or walnuts or some Brazil nuts, etc., or a trail mix, that way you're able to have much more stable glucose levels and stable energy after that snack. Now, I want to make a comment just about apples because I mentioned it. There's the pink lady, which is a lot of people's favorite. This is a new engineered fruit. This apple is very high in crunch factor, very high in fructose, low in fiber. So this is really a candy grown on a tree. It is not a recommended go-to for anybody with glucose regulation issues or fatigue after eating. You'd be better off having a smaller sized Granny Smith or green apple, and you can use some almond butter with it, or take some hummus or tahina with it. So that way you combining an apple with protein, combining an apple with fat, and that way you'll have stable glucose levels and stable energy levels through the day through a smart snack. Now, you'll notice that apples these days are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That is because this is what the market what the market wants. And just because they grow apples that big, it doesn't mean you have to eat them. So you can either choose smaller ones or just cut up a few pieces from an apple and put the rest in the fridge for later. And then you get to decide, again, coming back to conscious eating, you get to sort of decide how much you want to eat, and not because the farmers were pushed to grow this kind of fruit. Okay, so that's the second strategy to eat for better energy. Let's look at the third and final strategy. Now, this is called don't stuff yourself. Basically, to eat to approximately 70% of your max. And one way to do this is to go back to mindfulness eating. I personally, specifically on Shabbos and Yom Tov meals, I take a hand and just rest it on my belly during my meals, and sort of gives me a reminder and gives me feedback. How is my, how full am I? If I had a fullometer from 0 to 100, how full am I? And I want to get to no more than 70%. The good news is none of us are going to die of starvation in this society. More likely there's going to be overeating happening. And overeating, stuffing yourself, will absolutely tax your body. It's the number one reason for obesity, for type 2 diabetes, and chronic illness. So it's so important to eat, as my father-in-law of blessed memory used to say, eat to an elegant sufficiency. 70% is great. If you want to leave a tiny drop of space for some yummy dessert, that's great. But you're being far better off, and I say this to my kids, to have to eat to 70% full from less healthy foods than 100% full or stuffing yourself from healthy foods, because that places, the stuffing yourself really places tremendous burden on the digestive system. The digestive juices are insufficient to process that amount of food. Remember, your stomach is only the size of your fist. Yes, it's an elastic kind of a bag, and it can expand. But if you just look at people's plates or your own plate, you get a sense of how on earth are you stuffing all of that into your fist-size gut. So that's the strategy there, is to not to stuff yourself, eat to about 70% full. And I mentioned two strategies. One is to rest your hand on your belly when you eat and just check in with yourself. The other I mentioned was to put your fork down between bites, eat mindfully, enjoy your food, chew it well, salivate it well, and that way you're able to digest, absorb, and assimilate all those nutrients into your bloodstream so much better, and have stable energy throughout the day. So let me do a quick summary. Just before I do that, the strategies that I shared with you today are the things I used today. As I said, I had a low energy day today. My gut wasn't feeling great. I did get some sort of bug, and I ate extremely lightly, drank a lot of water, and the two meals that I did eat, there was a small bowl of soup and some rice and lentils, and each had some cultured vegetables inside. I put a tablespoon twice a day of the cultured vegetables that I'm making. And I also took a digestive enzyme and did some deep diaphragmatic breathing, a gentle walk, because all this is part of self-care. And self-care is the heart of healthcare. And there's so many different ways to put your needs on a map. Your needs are legit, 100% legit. Your existence is legit. Your needs are legit. Therefore, taking time to to sit at the table, to eat. And if the kids need to eat seconds or thirds and mom hasn't had firsts, then one of the elder kids can help them, or the younger kids can help themselves. But it's really important just to give yourself permission to really put your needs on the map, because without you, there is no family, by and large. The spouses, the children are all dependent on a healthy, happy running home through the mother, through the father, etc. So it's so important to give your needs some expression in the right way and get those met. So let's look at a quick summary for today. I started off by saying that it's normal to have energy dips through the day or the week or month. But if this is the theme of how you're living, with just low energy, lethargy, funk, feeling blah, low mood, is absolutely a sign that something is off. Or you're just running on coffee and chocolate and reaching for sugary snacks and drinks. It's a sign that something is off. And I mentioned that many lifestyle strategies or lifestyle reasons and stress reasons that can cause that. Spotlight for today is just one unknown or less spoken about item, which is the gut microbiome and advancing and strengthening the digestive system. I spoke about 3 specific gut strategies to help the microbiome, which will then in turn help energy levels. I spoke about including cultured vegetables or a probiotic at least twice a day to take a digestive enzyme and then to plug up any leaks. That is a reference to leaky gut syndrome, and having an greater intestinal permeability really puts a person's immune system at risk and can compromise energy levels as well. So that was a reference to previous Mind Body Monday on the topic as well. I then spoke about 3 specific strategies relating to gut health, and that is front-loading proteins and fats in your meal and putting carbs for last. So if you got your meal of your protein and your carb and some fat, healthy fat, keep the carb for last, and that way you can reduce your insulin spiking and glucose levels by as much as 40%. I spoke about smart snacks, and then don't stuff yourself. I hope these strategies are something that you can bring into your life, and perhaps just thinking about one of them and experimenting to bring it into your life for a day, for a week, for a month, and then when you're ready, move on to the other one. And just remember, Mind Body Monday is where self-care is the heart of healthcare. All you need to do is take one small step in the direction of health and healing in mind, body, and soul. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.